Hello and welcome back to the Not Your Neurotypical Fitness podcast with me, myself, and I. Who else? If you are watching on the video, you might be able to see that my skin right now, oh my god guys, we do not need BBC weather. I do not need a weather app. All I need to know is that the weather is changing because my skin just decides to come out in spots everywhere, but in really annoying places, like behind your ear, right on your hairline, like it's just not a vibe. So I was going to apologize for that, but I'm not going to apologize for that. This is just who I am. This is just how my skin is. But let's get into today's episode. Let's not go down a rabbit hole of spots and dermatology of stuff that I do not understand. All I know is when the weather changes, so does my skin. Today's episode is all about the link between ADHD and food noise, and I'm going to tell you guys about it through my story and my experience, because I don't know about you, but I find people just sharing facts, science a little bit boring at times. So I am obviously going to share the science and the facts of food noise with ADHD, but I'm going to tell you my story through it and my experience so you can understand it better. Now, food noise is one of those phrases that since we've obviously been introduced to drugs like Mounjaro, the GLP-1s, Ozempic, it's become a phrase that wasn't really used like a year ago, but now it's literally everywhere, right? And food noise is just this constant food preoccupation, food thoughts, food focus, where just food is constantly on the brain. And there are literally so many, I could write a book, I could do a whole podcast in itself about food noise, as in like a podcast show, with talking about all the different reasons as to why food noise is a thing, why food noise is a challenge. But today I'm going to very much go into its links to ADHD and why ADHD can make it worse. Now, to quickly go into the science of food noise and ADHD, when it comes to an ADHD brain, we have a lower baseline level of dopamine, and dopamine is that reward chemical in the brain. Now, all humans have it, and all humans get rewards from dopamine. So when we eat really nice food, sugar, carby food, takeaways, really delicious food, we get a hit of dopamine, right? That is not exclusive to an ADHD brain. But what we need to understand is that as an ADHDer, we will have lower baseline levels. So our normal levels are lower, which means our brains are actively seeking dopamine more than the average Tom, Dick, Harry, Joe, Karen, Susan, etc. So you're always running in a bit of a chemical deficit. You probably heard of the phrase calorie deficit. This is a chemical deficit. And whenever our body or our brain is deficient in something, it always wants to get that thing, and it will give you signals and signs for it. So for example, if you are deficient in water, you're dehydrated, you will get dry mouth. You'll probably be thinking about water more, right? You might have that like emptiness in your stomach. If you are deficient in calories, you're in a calorie deficit, you will be hungrier, right? So you're always getting these signals of what it is that you are deficient in. Your body will always try to tell you that because it doesn't want to be deficient in anything. So when you are deficient in dopamine, your brain is going to give you these little nudges and signals and urges to do things that give you dopamine. Now, our brain can't tell us that. It would be fantastic if our brain went, hello, please can you do something that gives me dopamine? It doesn't. It will just learn from experience what creates that dopamine hit and drive you to do that thing. So if over time you have learned, and you will have learned, that when I eat said food, I get dopamine, I get that dopamine rush, your brain will drive you to do that. And that is one of the main reasons why food noise is such a thing with ADHD. It is not that you want necessarily the food. It's not really much about the food. It's the lack of dopamine. And your brain is craving dopamine. Your brain knows food gives you dopamine, thus it's driving you to eat, hence where the food thoughts come from. And if you are not getting enough dopamine from other areas of life, because remember there are so many ways that we can get dopamine, right? So if I just think of a few like right now, exercising, getting fresh air, obviously strategically doom scrolling, spending time with love, like there's so many things. But if you're not getting enough of that, that noise is going to be louder and louder and louder. And this comes really nicely onto my personal experience with food noise and my story. My food noise has been an up and down journey in my life, but there are certain points that I can remember where my food noise was really loud. It was all consuming, and this might be something that you're experiencing now, hence why you're on this video. So the first point that I can remember where I experienced a lot of food preoccupation, a lot of food noise, was in my teenage years. I really struggled in school. I really struggled with fitting in. I was in and out of friendship groups. I really struggled as now what I understand was masking, because I was gifted and talented, that high achiever, had high expectations to get good grades. Teachers saw me as a good kid, really well behaved, nice, loved, I was always told that's who I was. So I was always living up to that expectation. I was exhausted, constantly exhausted. I didn't find that I fit in anywhere. I was seeing other girls get boyfriends. I wasn't getting boyfriends. I just wasn't having the best time. I really was not having the best time at school. And I found it really, 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 really hard. And when obviously I was able to have my own money, so pocket money, and have that freedom to do what I wanted with it, I would find that I would spend it on food. I would buy food in school, I'd buy food in the shops, and I just got into these really bad cycles of buying food or sneaking food from home as well and just eating it in secret behind closed doors because it was giving me comfort, it was giving me dopamine, and it just made the cycle worse. So the more that I was doing it, the more that I was hiding it, the more that I was buying food, the more that I was just constantly thinking about food. In my teenage years as well, I was really struggling with sleep, that kind of like teenage rebellion where you're like, I'm not going to bed early. So I wasn't sleeping well. I was also gaining weight, not feeling confident in my body, but then it was that vicious cycle. So there was so much low dopamine from masking, being exhausted, not fitting in, poor sleep, not feeling good in my body. So food became this way that I could cope. And that is why food was always on my brain at that stage of my life. Another point that really there's many points in my journey where food was on my brain, but it's linking it specifically to ADHD, because obviously there was times where I was restrictive dieting, I had the eating disorder where I was very food focused, but I put that down probably more so to the element of restriction, because we know that heavy restriction leads to heavy food focus. But university. So I recovered from my eating disorder, and literally within, I got to a really good space. I think recovery is a constant journey. That's my opinion. I got to a really good place, and my nana, who was a really pivotal character in my recovery journey, sadly passed away very tragically, very, very overnight. It was not expected. So that was obviously really hard. And then food just started to become a little bit of a coping mechanism again, because it gave me that comfort, it gave me that release. And then I moved to university. Obviously I got myself to university, which was amazing, but God, I did not cope with the change. Obviously ADHD, slightly autistic brains do not like change. So I was dealing with the change of routines, change of place, trying to meet new people, which I find really hard. That small talk, I hate it. Masking, again, not really feeling like I was fitting in, like everyone else seemed to just click and make friends. I didn't feel like I was making friends in my lectures, in my halls. So again, I really started to struggle, and that's when the food noise started to kick in even more. I was working late, so I wasn't sleeping well. So my food noise in university just became really loud. And again, I was in those same cycles where I was, buying lots of food, overeating. I worked at KFC at the time. I was overeating on food there. It just became chronic and constant. And again, I gained quite a bit of weight. I wasn't happy. And this is the thing, like, you can be in a body that you're unhappy. You can know that you want to lose weight. You can know that food isn't the solution. But until you actually, as an ADHD, understand this dopamine loop, this dopamine reward system, and understand why it is that your food noise is so loud, you are always going to be in these same cycles. You are always going to have these struggles. You are always going to be trying things, it not working, and just constantly have food noise. And this is why you're then going to feel like the only way out of it is to utilize things like GLP-1s, Mounjaro, Ozempic. Now, I am not anti-drug. I do think there is a time and a place for these things, but there is another solution. There is another way to understand how you can increase dopamine, how you can do, like I was saying to you at the start of this podcast, there's 50,000+ reasons why food noise is a thing, beyond just the dopamine loop. And when you understand these, you know why you're stuck in the loop, you can create strategies to get out of it. reduce that food noise, and then ultimately feel in control with food and get after what it is that you want. And that is why I have created a solution, and I'm so excited to announce it. Like, if today has hit home, you are an ADHDer who struggles with food noise, and you've listened to this and thought, that is great, Lucy, thank you for sharing that. I get it, I get the science, I now understand it more, but I want a solution. I want out. I don't want to be stuck in this cycle. I hear you. I have built a program that is literally designed for neurodivergent women to break free from the food noise, the constant chatter, the start-stop cycle. And I'm so excited to introduce to you the Food Freedom Fix, a 5-day program designed specifically for the neurodivergent brain with ADHD, autistic, friendly strategies to help get out of the cycle. This is not just a willpower, discipline. Like, you will never have heard of these strategies before. You will never have seen these things before because no other coaches talk, like coaches don't know how. As an ADHDer myself, who's been there, who's coached women through it, I have the systems, the strategies, the tools, the techniques, everything that you need to have that freedom, that peace from constant food noise that you crave. And because you are a podcast listener and because you are here, I have an exclusive discount code. Now, the program itself is a steal, but I'm going to give it to you as even more of a steal, as a little thank you. So I will leave the link to sign up in the description. You can get 25% off by using the code podcast, and that will save you 25% on the program. Now, we get started on November the 14th, so you need to hurry. If this has hit home and this sounds like what you need, get yourself inside the program, because I don't say this lightly. This program will change your life. So this is the room you need to be in. This is the program you need to be in, because every single ADHDer out there deserves freedom from that constant food noise. It will change your life. It will save your life. And I want to give you access to something that will actually do that. So for everyone that signs up, I cannot wait to see you inside the program, and I cannot wait to give you that peace and that freedom that your brain deserves.